Welcome to the Elevate podcast, a resource to help your ministry take the next step. Whether you're leading a team, navigating church leadership, or preparing for what's ahead, this show is designed to equip you with practical tools, real conversations, and lessons learned from those who have been there. Today, we're talking about something every ministry depends on: volunteers. From background checks to first impressions to training, team building, and long-term care, we're unpacking how to vet, equip, and care for the people who faithfully serve in your area of ministry. I'm Stephanie Prince, Connection Minister at the Church at Station Hill, and I'm joined by Todd Bishop, Executive Pastor for our North Region campuses, and Adam Dye, Production Director for all 9 of our Brentwood campuses. Each of these leaders know what it takes to build a healthy, sustainable volunteer team across a wide range of ministries. I'm excited for this conversation, so let's jump in. Todd, can you kick us off with a quick introduction? I'd love to hear a little bit more about who you are and what your role is in the church.
Absolutely. My name's Todd Bishop, and I serve as the Associate Executive Pastor for our North Region, which is 4 of our campuses in Davidson County. I've been on staff for about 11 years, and before I stepped into the Executive Pastor role, I served as the Connection Minister for 10 years at the Brentwood campus, and also the lead Connection Minister, so I got to work with great people like Stephanie doing Connection Ministry. And so, a lot of volunteer teams over the course of the last 10 years or so.
Yeah. What about you, Adam?
My name is Adam Dye, and I'm the production director for all 9 of our campuses. So I oversee our production staff, whether it's part-time employees or full-time employees at each of our campuses. I've been here for just under 20 years, and I remember my first day on the job, I was assembling road signs for the parking lot that told people how to tune into our services on their FM car radio.
Wow.
So I don't really know what I did back then, but over these past 20 years, moved into a role where I get to try to equip and train and provide resources for the campus tech directors who are kind of boots on the ground leading their own volunteer teams.
I know you've been here for over 20 years, but I've been here for 10 and a half. So I've gotten to watch you do a lot of that work over those 10 years. And you're so good at intentionally picking people and equipping them and placing them in roles. Tell us more about that, especially with like technical skills or more sensitivity or specialty roles. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that we're looking for in any volunteer is attitude. You can't really teach somebody to have a good attitude.
Yeah.
And none of us always have a good attitude. But aside from attitude, we're looking for skills, but those can be taught. So another thing we're looking for is trust. And trust to us is understanding of our church, understanding of this congregation, the type of people who make up our congregations. Trust means understanding our worship ministers and what they're looking for our congregations to get out of our services. And so if we can have volunteers who understand our culture and our congregations, then when it comes to the audio mix or how we're doing lighting or video shots that we're taking, they already understand who this church is. And so they inherently have a little bit of an idea of what this church needs. Again, every church is different. So for us and our campuses, one small campus might have very different needs than a large campus.
Yeah.
And so that means a different type of volunteer who understands that campus well. Spiritual maturity is a really big thing, but it's actually not part of a key component that we're looking for in a volunteer.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Because we've got people who may not get plugged in anywhere else in the church except on our team. So that gives us an opportunity to lead them in a journey of spiritual maturity. And that's a tough one because we've got such limited time on a Sunday morning, like anybody does. We've got one of the earliest call times on Sunday mornings. We're often the first ones in, the last ones out. So our team doesn't get to function as a Bible study or a small group, but it still is a catalyst. It's like a starting place for community where people are exposed to the Word of God. They're exposed to worship. They're in that environment. You can't get out of it when you're serving on our team. But then they're around believers who have been mature believers for a long time, or they're around people who can connect them to other opportunities in the church.
Yeah. I love what you said about like character, really. You can't teach somebody character. They have to come in with a good character, good attitude, good foundation, and then they can grow spiritually and they can grow with their technical skills. But the character is kind of the non-negotiable that I hear for you.
It is. And maybe just one more thing going back to attitude is if you're a staff member or you're a key volunteer, the attitude of the entire team, especially when it's early on Sunday morning, and let's say things aren't working well, equipment's breaking, or staff like me hasn't prepared the volunteers for success as well as they could have, or it's just, there's been a thunderstorm and something's not working. Everybody's grumpy. Attitude starts at the top with staff and with key volunteers. We don't have to put on that happy church face that's fake if we're not actually feeling great. But fostering positivity on Sunday mornings goes a long way to that team feeling like a team, wanting to connect with each other, and then ultimately maybe wanting to spend time outside of Sunday mornings with each other, studying God's word or being in some type of community.
That's great. Todd, anything you'd like to add, thinking maybe even more towards the discernment process?
Absolutely.
How you discern a healthy volunteer?
We are blessed because over the years we have developed a membership process that allows us to sort of get to know people in as you have a lot of people coming in, joining a church or trying to discover where their place is, we're able to meet and have those conversations. And so it's a real easy way. It's a low stress environment that you can understand who the church is. And we have used this process over the last 15 or 16 years to really go, okay, these are people's spiritual gifts, and I'm sensing some stuff, and so we'll have some coaching sessions. Either our staff or volunteers will be meeting with them, and allows us to really, as you say, a discernment process. It really is, because we're just sort of like, I think they'd be a good fit for this. And when I was over the Connection Ministry, we were always in a recruiting season. There's never if you're not recruiting all the time, you're in trouble. And so we definitely had peak load seasons, but we were always just looking for people that seem to be friendly. And an easy way to get involved in a church early on is to join a guest services team or a first impressions team. And so what we would do is we just look for the people who just are genuinely friendly, and don't mind saying hello or opening a door. And we're not always looking for cheerleaders.
Yeah, it's an easy on-ramps.
There's very easy on-ramps. And so what we're looking for is just people who have a good, I think Adam said it well, just first attitude, do they just have a presence that would be part of who we want to express to new people that are coming to our church. And so that's what we do is we use that membership process to sort of help us in several ways. We want to get folks integrated in the life of our church, but also we want to find giftings and calling.
Yeah.
And the thing that I love about Scripture is that we're all called to use our gifts. And when people are living out their gifts, there's a fulfillment to that. And so and there's ownership, and it becomes your church. And so we're looking for those kind of things. So it's an intentional process, but we're always looking. And there's always room. I always say we're never full. We can always add more volunteers, right, Adam? I mean, you've had that problem too. Like, we're always recruiting some people.
We're always recruiting. We're never full. But I think a lot of times people see, maybe for my team, they hear that sound is being mixed every Sunday without fail. For your team, that doors are being opened for people. That doesn't mean that we don't have room for more people. It's hard to sometimes be intentional about seeking out people to serve on our team because they may not seek us out themselves because they see that the work is already getting done.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that some of our volunteers are maybe serving too many weekends in a row or pulling extra duty.
I think as a leader, and Stephanie, you and I have done a lot of similar things here at Brentwood. You've got it starts with the leader always trying to have the eye out for somebody. I mean, Adam, that's the same thing for you. It's like you're always like, I wonder if, because I mean, it looks like we've got everything covered on Sundays, but we're always needing people.
Yeah.
And there's always someone calling out, or someone's sick, or I'm on vacation, and I'm like, if we had 100 volunteers greeting, we'd find a place for them. I'd sprinkle them through the hallways, or I'd put them at doors, or I'd put them in the sanctuary, and I'd just have them, hey, just talk to people, just because that's a DNA thing that we want to make sure is that you feel welcome and warm and warmly greeted. But, for Adam, it's always like there's always a need for some extra help. And there's someone calling out like, what happens when your audio guy is out? And you're like, oh boy, we got to have a good sound mix for this service or something like that. But Stephanie, what about you? I'm curious for you. What do you think are some key things to recruit people?
Yeah, I think I want to highlight what Adam said about attitude. I think it comes back to the matrix. I've always heard the language that we've used before is character and competency. And so character you can't teach, competency you can teach.
Yeah.
And we've talked about previously like how dangerous it is if you have somebody that has low character and high competency.
Yep.
They might be the best audio engineer or the best parking lot director or fill in the blank of the role, worship leader, musician. But if they don't have high character to back that up, that can actually be detrimental to the team, to the church, to the congregation.
Yeah,
affecting attitude, affecting so many different things. Thank you guys for talking a little bit about vetting. That was kind of the first chunk of our conversation today. And so I want to talk a little bit now about equipping. So let's say we've found our volunteers, we've identified some people, whether it's on a Sunday morning in the hallway or through the membership process, whether you've picked out a couple people specifically or they've come to you. We now have new volunteers. How do we equip them? So Todd, tell us some of your onboarding strategies. How do you help a new volunteer feel confident and prepared to serve?
It takes time, first of all, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. So as we have trained volunteers over these last 10 years, we have found there's several different ways. Number one, there's got to be some official training. And so during peak seasons where we're recruiting heavy, say right before Easter or right as you walk into a Christmas season or maybe the start of a school year, those are high peak attendance. And we're always like, we've got to have as many people volunteering as possible. There is some intentional, hey, let's come together, and we're good Baptists. So if you feed them, they will come. And so I'm like, let's have a breakfast, let's have a lunch, and let's just go over, here are some key things we're looking for, and we'll talk about our 4 things that we want to prioritize as someone on the guest services team. And so because the first thing is it's that character. Remember, this is who we are. And so we want to encourage them and say, this is what we're shooting for. We've got to have something we're shooting for. Number 2, I think there's also just that one-on-one where you're actually walking with a volunteer. And so whether you're a church of 1,000 or 2,000 or a church of 50, there's got to be this orientation where you're just like, here's what we're expecting. And then the thing that I think has been one of the most effective is after you have that initial onboarding and training is that you pair someone up with a veteran that has been doing it for a while. And
That's so important.
And so they get to see it in action. And because the hardest thing is that awkward, it's my first Sunday or my second Sunday, and I don't have the answers when someone goes, where's the bathroom? Or what do I do? Or where do I check my kid in for this or that?
And I feel like it breaks down so much of the fear too.
It does.
It just removes it. It removes that barrier.
Because it's a culture we're creating, right? And so we want this camaraderie and we want this. So for us, I think it's multifaceted. It's a general training. We bring everybody together. And what I've learned over the years is that even though we've had people volunteering for a long time, they need that reminder too. So I bring everybody in. I do a training it's not just for new folks, it's also for everybody. So it's just, we need to be reminded all the time.
That's a great rhythm.
And then I think that pairing up with a veteran volunteer is a key thing. So
I agree. Adam, what about you? How have you helped volunteers move from just helping out, kind of that mentality of I'm just showing up to push a button, to actually being engaged and taking ownership over their responsibilities?
Yeah, a lot of it is the same as what Todd said. Like our process is observe, train, shadow, and then you're on your own. So we always want somebody just to hang out with us in a control room with a camera operator behind the audio console, because it seems like a glamorous thing to work in production and technology. But then when you see all the work that goes into it, it just may not be for you. So we like people just to hang out and watch. And then after that, we'll do some training with them one-on-one, whenever that is, after church on a Sunday, on a weekday. And then the shadow thing is we'll have them sit right with the person during an event or a Sunday service for the position they're training on. So they're shadowing that person, they're watching them, and then we swap roles the next time they're on.
That's great.
And they're right there clicking the mouse or, moving the faders, but somebody skilled, the veteran that Todd talked about, is then shadowing them. That person can always reach in if there's a problem. But it's like when you're at Target and you see somebody doing training and they reach over and push buttons on the register for the trainee. That's what we always have to be careful of not doing. We want them to make some mistakes. We want them to learn without just us swooping in. But we're there if we need to.
Yeah.
And then the last is they're on their own. And there's every step of this way. We always talk with the person who is training, and they talk with us, and we'll never go to the next step if both parties don't feel comfortable with it.
Oh, that's great. That's a good check-in point.
Yeah, and we make it very clear. That means that if you want to mix sound for a really big service, it doesn't mean you get to, but we're going to try to help get you there. And then in terms of giving volunteers some ownership, you mentioned food. I just went to dinner last night with a key volunteer who's been at this church longer than I have. He has so many ideas of what we can do differently, how we can do things better. You just got to have a venue for having those conversations. And a lot of people in the heat of things on Sunday mornings say, we should do this differently, or I have an idea. And it's easy for that to go in one ear and out the other. So giving your people time for feedback is really key. And then I would say the last thing for us is that there are a lot of people who show interest in being on our team. And I'm not the best person at seeing that somebody has interest and getting them through the process to actually serving. There's roadblocks in my way of I'm busy doing other things, or I've got bigger projects and I say, maybe I'll do that later, or I don't see the potential that's in them. But somebody's going to see that potential. I'm fortunate that there's a member on my team who's such a people person and such a nurturing, caring person. They see that potential. And so many people are onboarded because of this team member. But that could be another staff member in another department. It could be one of your key volunteers. You don't have to have a big team to have access to people who have gifts different than you do, who can help your team grow and I think thrive.
That's great. I've also seen your team look for little ways to give ownership over. And I was actually just talking to somebody from your team yesterday, and they were talking about how they let their volunteers choose the background for the slides for the music. And there's a slide bank for them to choose from. But instead of coming in every week and just feeling like their role is to come in, push a button to something that's already preset and pre-done, they get to come in, they get to actually build out the worship slides with the music. And because they've now picked what the background's going to look like, why it's going to look that way, they then serve with a whole different mindset. And I was like, whoa, I had no idea that was such an intentional piece of your ministry.
And that can get out of control. There can be confetti and fireworks happening in your service if you just let people work without some type of boundaries. But like we talked about before, if they understand our congregations and our worship leaders and our pastors and what's best for these people in a worship environment, and they've got that buy-in, then it's really great to give them that freedom to be creative and still do it, maybe I would say, the way we would do it.
Yeah, and freedom doesn't come without boundaries.
Yeah.
So I think there's healthy boundaries that we can set and still empower and equip our volunteers to step into that.
Adam, I love the fact that you say, I don't always see it because I'm so busy. And I think that's so important for people to know is that another way you can equip your teams is to say, hey, you're not the only person, that we're all here, to recruit. And I want you, the thing that we always talk to our teams, like parking team is one of the hardest teams to recruit for in the church because you're out when it's hot, you're out when it's cold, bad weather. And so not everyone's really, they're wired to do that. And so one of the things we always tell our parking team leaders is like, hey, you're your best recruiter. Who are some people who's a friend of yours you can pull alongside and hang out with me one Sunday a month to help in the parking lot and stuff like that. So I love that that's even a culture for your teams because there's just no way that one person can recruit. And so we're always like, how can we all do this? And I guess that's part of culture that we're trying to shape, Stephanie. how have you seen that work, at the Station Hill campus?
Yeah, I think for us at Station Hill, I love watching people take ownership over things. And so I was blessed to step into a role where that culture already existed at our church. And so all I had to do was continue to foster it. And if there was a service time wrong on a sign because we changed something last minute in the parking lot, I had volunteers coming up my first week at Station Hill being like, do you have any white duct tape? I want the duct tape to match the sign color so that we can cover over it. Because I'm going to write in Sharpie because we don't have time to reorder this before next week. Like, they want it to look excellent. They want to pursue the gospel with excellence, and they know how important their roles are. And so it's just empowering. And again, it's kind of setting those boundaries for them, but then letting them run with it. And I had to learn early on, I think, for myself in ministry, like, I wanted to do everything myself because I wanted to do everything perfectly. And I very quickly realized I have to let go of the reins.
It's not possible.
And I have to empower others, because I would so much rather have one of my volunteers take ownership over their area and do it to 95% of what I would have done, but I didn't have to do it. It would have taken me 6 hours to do it. It took them 15 minutes to do it. Let's empower them and run with it. Like, that's something I had to grow and learn as a leader, I know.
If I could look back on the last 20 years, I think that's maybe one of the biggest things that I wish I had learned sooner. I don't need to take credit for any of the good things that come out of the team that I lead. Anybody can do those things, and it's a win for all of us.
Yeah, and I think, too, like, celebrating those, like trying to celebrate. I used to call it passing the thank you. And Todd, I can't even remember what conference it was. A bunch of us went somewhere, and someone was talking about making sure to be intentional to say thank you to your volunteers. And I was like, oh, that's so good. So I came back, started passing the thank you. So anytime someone would come up to me and say thank you for something, I would figure out who I was going to give credit to it for. And I would go to the volunteer, or I'd go back to somebody and be like, hey, I got to thank you for what you did today. And I would pass it back on to them and really build them up to celebrate the wins and not let that credit, it wasn't my credit. But being the minister, sometimes those compliments come to us. And so passing that back on, I also found really empowers my team members.
I feel like sometimes we have to remind ourselves is that if we're in a ministry leadership role, we get so excited about doing it. We love doing the ministry.
Yes.
But our job through what we read through Scripture is to give ministry away. We're to equip the saints and let them do it.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because I could probably do it better or at the 100%. But man, what if I give somebody this opportunity where they feel like there's ownership to this? And so I think that whether you're in charge of a connection ministry or you're on a tech team or even teaching kids or teenagers or in a small group or something like that, is that how do we empower people to do ministry? Because that is the multiplication effect of what the gospel calls us to do. And so I think that's something that as ministry leaders, we have to ask ourselves, am I doing this because it makes me feel good, or am I called to equip the saints to do the ministry?
Ooh, that's a good question.
So, and I just think that's something we need to ask ourselves a lot.
Yeah.
Because I love doing ministry. I love but I'm like, but my job is not to do the ministry. My job is to equip those around me to do the ministry.
Yeah.
And then let them go. And what we'll see over and over again is how it multiplies and it thrives. And it could do more than we could ever hope or accomplish, right?
Absolutely.
Well, I think you just finished the podcast. That was perfect.
I don't know about that. So.
I do want to hone back in on technical skills, though. Adam, we were talking about what does it look like to balance technical skills? You already mentioned spiritual growth a little bit, that they don't have to come in and be this theologically sound, ministry, seminary trained pastor in order to operate a camera. How do you take somebody with maybe low spiritual health, new believer, asking questions about growth, and actually develop them to become a spiritually healthy individual and volunteer?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a whole lot different from what we were just talking about, is that you have to find resources within your church to allow that person to grow. So my team can train somebody to run a camera, but let's say I'm a male leader and I've got a female member of the team who needs some discipleship or some guidance in some personal areas of her life. That's not going to be something that I'm going to be doing personally. But there are people on our volunteer team, and I can name them by name right now, some of the people that I would pair up with that person.
Yeah.
And there's also other staff members who can do the same. So again, it's not a one-person show of whoever leads the team also magically makes the members of that team really good at all aspects of how they serve, only one of which is the technical side of it. We like to encourage our volunteers in things that are achievable, that will help them become better teammates and grow spiritually. And the things that are achievable are things that our entire church is asked to do, such as right now, 40 days of prayer for our global workers, or last year, reading through the entire Bible in the year. These might be daunting things if you've never prayed or if you've never read through the Bible. But if we can find members of our team who can encourage others and let them know, here's where I messed up this past week. I'm 4 days behind on my Bible reading, or I'm a month behind, but I'm going to try to catch up. We try to let our team members know about those opportunities that are not just something they should be working on, but that we're all working on together.
I feel like that brings synergy to the team too, because they're all going after the same goal. They're all talking about the same things.
Yeah, and it's tough because as the team leader, you want to do that task well. I want to have read my reading from the Bible every single day for 365 days. You also don't want to brag about it, but sometimes they need encouragement to know that you're doing it and that other people are doing it. And you can reach out to members of the team to say, hey, can you share with people what you're learning? We had one of our campuses did just a quick service walkthrough on Sunday mornings before the services started, and they would talk through what they were reading in the Bible that week in the year-long Bible read-through.
That's awesome.
And it would often be led by a different member of the team, not just by the staff member.
Oh, that's great. Empowering the other people to be leaders of your team.
Yeah.
I like that.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Well, let's talk about caring a little bit. So we've talked about vetting, finding new volunteers, equipping the volunteers that have come onto our team, assimilating them. We've talked about spiritual health a little bit. How do we care for our volunteers? What does it look like to make sure that they know that they are seen, valued, appreciated, loved?
I'll start off. I think one of the things that has been effective in ministries that I've been a part of is having enough people doing ministry roles that the leader can walk around and just check in on people, you know? And, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Sometimes it's a quick email, just, here's a devotional thought I'd like to share with you. And just, sort of add on, like you said, how do we, like even in the production meetings, like, hey, let's talk about what I learned in the Bible reading plan this year. I've seen that happen in lots of different ways on other teammates that have done that. But I think it's just slowing down enough. And so if we hand away ministry to other people, I think that gives the leader time to check in with people. And you have all those moments where you can have those conversations. Hey, this lady's mom is in the hospital and it's just not been good, and you can pull them aside and say, how can I pray for you? I've seen leaders that do notes of encouragement, and I wish I was better at that. I have every great intention, but
Same here.
So I mean, I want to do that, but I'm like, I'm slow at writing. But I know one of our ministry leaders who sends out notes of encouragement every week, like 4 or 5. And I'm like, how meaningful that is. And I hear them come back and go, thank you for that card. Thank you for seeing me. I think people want to be seen.
Yeah.
So however that is, what your style is, I think everybody's got to find their groove. But how do you have personal contact with people? Maybe it's a text message. I found that was one of the best ways. I can text I think of our parking team. These guys don't like the big mushy notes or anything like that. But I'm like, hey, are you good? Do you have everything you need?
Yeah.
Or just like, I remember you saying something, I'm praying for you today. Let me know how it's going. Those kind of touch points, they are very simple, but it means the world to people.
Yeah.
So what do you guys do?
The note cards of encouragement thing is that I wrote this in my notes of something that says, we're not as good at this as we could be, because I see the same thing, other people really utilizing that. And I do recall probably 10 years ago writing, 3 sentences to a volunteer. And the response I got from him was that nobody has ever said such kind things and recognized me. And I don't do it for the recognition, but I sure appreciate that. So I think we forget that just a simple thank you when they're done on Sunday morning may not be enough.
Yeah.
For people who aren't looking for recognition, but who often don't get enough of it. So I think just delegation is big for our team, finding the people who have the gift of hospitality to make some snacks or breakfast or something for members of our team, or I don't know, just whatever the personal touch points with volunteers need to be, because every volunteer has a different way of feeling appreciated and feeling loved.
Yeah.
And that's not a skill that all of us are going to have. I think making time on a busy Sunday when we just want to get our work done and be effective and efficient is just like the biggest thing I need to be reminded of all the time is, like Todd said, if we're well-staffed and we've prepared well, then hopefully we can take a step back and breathe and be with our people and not just direct our people.
Oh, that's good. Be with our people, not just direct our people.
Yeah.
I feel like we're all talking about delegating.
Yeah.
That wasn't on our topic list
Yeah.
today, but I mean, it sounds like we're redefining what leadership is. And leadership is caring for our people and delegating the actual task-oriented work, empowering them to do it.
Yeah. So Stephanie, you've done some great things over the years. So what are some ways that you care for your folks on your teams?
I'll share a funny one.
Okay.
So if you've ever been in my office, you know my door's always open on Sunday mornings. People are coming and going from behind the scenes. And I have a little bowl of chocolate that I keep stocked with some good Dove chocolate, as my team likes to call it. And so people come in, grab a piece of chocolate. I'm like, this is actually a connection ministry tool for me. So I'm now busting myself open. So now everyone knows that this is actually a tool and a trick.
We'll be there.
But it gives me an opportunity to say, hey, your husband had knee surgery last week. How was that? Is he back to walking yet? How's recovery going? Oh, your brother was sick. Is he still in the hospital? It gives me a moment to pause. They're busy getting chocolate. They're unwrapping it and in a good mood and just want to chat about life in opportunities that wouldn't occur in the atrium where we're all running a million miles a minute going different directions in between services. And so I like to try to find little creative ways to be able to remind myself, pause, find out how are my people doing? How are they really doing? And how can we care for them?
And you know what?
Yeah.
We don't always, like maybe now Todd and I need to have that chocolate bowl too, so we can have those opportunities.
It absolutely works.
But members of my team, at least, often don't share some of that personal stuff. But our church members do in the prayer requests that they write and allow our church staff to pray for.
Yeah.
So I think indirectly, when we're praying for our congregations based on the specific needs they give us, not only does that help us understand what the people in our church are going through in their lives, it helps us understand that maybe members of our team are having some similar struggles. But as we pray for them and they hopefully see some fruit of that in their lives, I think they're going to be able to better minister to the rest of the congregation, which includes our team members.
Yeah.
So there's just a very indirect relationship between all of the people in this congregation, not just the people that we work with directly on a weekly basis.
Yeah, and I wonder too, like how small could just be asking someone like, how can I pray for you? Building a culture where even our team members that are more introverted or more personal in nature feel like they can bring their prayer needs and share what's really going on in their lives and be seen and known by the team members.
Yeah, and sometimes I think some people think their thing is trivial compared to somebody else's major health issue, for example. And a lot of people just don't want to share when too many people are listening or when theirs doesn't seem as important as others.
Chocolate dish, y'all.
Let's do it.
Chocolate
I'm
dish.
all about the
one-on-one
chocolate,
conversations.
Are you
How
buying
can
the
I
chocolate?
pray and help for you? I actually have had volunteers that feel like they've taken so much chocolate, they now will regularly bring me more chocolate. Or if they want something different in the bowl, they'll bring in like a special type of chocolate.
I'm going to take notes right now.
Donations of chocolates, we'll take those.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps us up for the day. Thank you guys for such a great conversation.
Absolutely. This is fun.
Thanks for listening to today's conversation on volunteer ministry. Whether you're in a small church or a multi-campus team, the call is the same. Equip the saints for the work of the ministry. That starts with finding the right people, training them well, and caring for them along the way. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a team member or ministry leader you serve alongside. And don't forget to check out the Elevate Church Conference, a one-day event to equip your whole church team with practical strategies to lead well. Learn more at elevatechurchconference.com. We'll see you next time on the Elevate Podcast.